Hello folks, greetings. From today on, I'm going to start some set of videos just to explain how to use Excel and how to program in Excel using a specific tool called VBA, which stands for Visual Basic for Applications. Okay, so I'm going to start Excel. Let me create a blank workbook. And I'm going to touch on some of the advanced features of Excel to start with, right? And I'm also going to teach you some of the personal finance concepts, right? Which is very useful in Excel. So I kind of have three goals for these little videos: is basically teach you programming, teach you Excel itself, how to use Excel, and also learn a lot of financial concepts that you do need to know to manage your personal finances. Okay, and we'll see after that if it goes a little bit further, then maybe I can even teach you some advanced financial concepts. Okay, so to start with, I am expecting you to have some familiarity with Excel, at least the basics. But I'm going to teach some advanced concepts. It's not very advanced. It's if you know a little bit of Excel, you can catch what I'm trying to do. But I am going to teach some of it, because without knowing that, you cannot do programming in Excel, right? You need to know how Excel works. And to start with, you know that Excel has these are called the cells, and the columns have an address which is named after alphabets, A, B, C, D, etc. And the rows have numbers, right? Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is that I'm going to provide you a way to calculate the amount you need to pay for a loan when you take a fixed interest loan, right? How much you should pay per month, right? Now, one of the things that happens when you go and buy a house or a car is they usually try to tell you that, hey, we will focus on how much you pay per month, right? But what I'm going to teach you is you should never think about what you pay per month. You should think about the total loan, how much you're going to pay for the total loan, because that's where the company that is selling you the loan is making money, and that is where you're losing money. It's not about your monthly payment. Your monthly payment can be very small, but you're still paying for 30 years, 40 years, 70 years. That means you're paying a lot more than what you need to pay. And if you are going for work or something, that money can be used for other purposes. So you got to be very careful on what kind of mortgage you're getting or what kind of loan you're getting. And especially my advice will be, except for more items like house and land, where the value of that house or land will appreciate. Rest of the things you should be able to save the money up and pay it up front, which is much better than going for a loan, right? Okay, so that said, let's get into Excel and see what we can do. Now in Excel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some headings, maybe from B I'll start. And I can put the principal, which I'm going to call total amount, right? So I'll call it as loan amount. Loan amount. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to build an Excel sheet where if you enter the loan amount and the terms, like how long you're going to pay for it, and the interest rate, that this spreadsheet will calculate the monthly payment. It will not only do that, it will just give you a schedule, a loan schedule for whatever that period is, that will tell you that that your loan, how much you're paying in total, how much you're paying in interest, and how much how you're breaking down your payment, right? So let's do that. I'm going to start very simple, then after we understood the concepts, then I'll introduce programming, right? Okay, so if you take the loan amount, so some of these fields are input fields. So for input fields, I'm just going to use an yellow box, right? So the loan amount, let me make it bold. Okay, and I'm just going to put number of years. And since we are going to do monthly, I'm going to let Excel calculate the number of months. It's very simple, but I'll let Excel calculate it. And when it is calculated, I'm going to change the color to something else like blue. Okay. So, and then this side, I'm just going to put the interest rate. And I'm going to say that's dollar amount, right? Interest is mostly percentage, interest rate. So then I need to calculate. So the interest rate itself could be an input field. I'm going to calculate the monthly rate based on what the interest rate is. And I'm going to, let me change that to going to make it bold. Okay, and then, so this is also a calculated field. And then it's also going to calculate the monthly payment. That's a calculated field too, right? So basically, when you enter the loan amount, the other things will be automatically calculated, okay? So let's give an example. I'm going to put the loan amount is 400,000. And since it's formatted for for money, automatically formats. Of course, for your country, it may use your own country's currency sign, right? And then I'm going to say, let's say that you are going for a 30-year loan. You're buying a house. It's for 30 years. Obviously, the number of months can be calculated, and in order to calculate in Excel, you put an equals and you select the variables. You can click on the cell and it will calculate, and then this should be multiplied by 12, right? Because each year has 12 months. Okay, so it automatically calculates that. And the interest rate, let me put 5%. Okay, I already formatted it for percent. Now, even if it is 5%, I'm just going to put that in 2 decimal places. So you click on that, these increase and decrease decimal places icons, it increases the decimal places. Now the monthly rate is also percentage, but I really want it to be 4 decimal places. So I click on 4 times. Now this is calculated. It's basically, I can calculate taking that one and dividing that by 12 for each month, right? So that is 5 decimal places. So let me reduce that to 4 decimal places. Okay. Now the important thing is, especially if you're dealing with mortgages, that in United States, I don't know about other countries, the interest rate sometimes they will they'll give you an interest rate, but they will also give you an APR. Okay, APR stands for annual percentage rate, right? Now, when you're actually paying APR. You're not paying the interest rate. And what APR is? APR includes other little things like fees and points and stuff that you're paying along with the interest rate. Okay, so your APR percentage will be a little bit more than your interest rate generally for a mortgage. Now, what you want to make sure is you want to understand what that breakdown is. What is that is included in the APR other than interest rate? And another thing is, obviously, you got to make sure that the APR is not too high compared to the actual interest rate, right? But when I say interest rate in Excel, I'm talking about APR because that's what you're going to pay, right? So whatever that percentage is, you can put that there. Now, how do we calculate the monthly payment? Actually, Excel has a many functions for this. There's one function I'm going to introduce here. And so you put equals, and there is a function called PMT, okay, that can calculate the payment for you automatically. What you need to provide for it is the rate, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to provide the monthly rate, okay? So I'm going to provide the monthly rate. Okay, and then you need to say how many payments, right? Number of payments. So I'm going to include that, and then it's going to ask for the present value. Okay, present value, since it's a loan, it's actually negative, right? So presently it's negative of whatever is there in C2. Okay. And then it's going to ask for the future value, and since it's a loan, it's 0. Okay. Now, you can understand that. You also can understand that if you want, let's say that you have a goal for saving up money with a certain percentage rate, this one can also calculate that. Let's say that your goal is to save $400,000 in 360 months, then it becomes positive, right? Your present value is 0 and the future value is 400,000. Then it can also still calculate your something like a recurring deposit. If you want to do, it can calculate that too, right? But in this case, we are calculating for loan. So, and I'm using PMT, and I'll later in time when I get into programming, I can tell you what is the real formula, right? And we can spend some time on how that formula is. But right now, I'm just using an Excel function, right? And I enter that, and of course I formatted it for dollar amount, so therefore it says it's $2,147.29. That's your monthly payment. Okay, so here itself you can see that your cost, your total loan amount is that much. And what I want to make sure is you negotiate on the total loan amount and the interest rate. That's what is important for you. You really don't care about monthly payment, because I'll put it this way. If let's say that I change this number of years to, for example, 40, your monthly payment decreases. You got it? But you are actually paying more, and I'll prove how you're paying more. Even though your monthly payment has decreased by, I don't know, $300 maybe, you're actually paying more, okay? And we'll see how that happens, okay? But that's what you need to calculate and understand. And so Excel is an excellent tool. It's very easy for you to put these fields, and then you can actually calculate your monthly payment, right? You don't need, so these things you can do the homework at home before even you go to the bank or a seller to negotiate a price, right? Generally, you'll be negotiating the price and the interest rate, okay? The lower the interest rate, the lower is the payment. So for example, if I make this as 3%, your payment, look at how much it decreased. So instead of increasing the number of months, when you decrease the interest rate, the percentage, the amount of money you pay for a month is decreasing. So this is what you need to know. It's not about whether you're decreasing or increasing a monthly payment. It's about what's the interest rate, what's the total amount, and how many months am I going to pay this amount. Okay. So let me go back to 5%. Now there's another thing is that it's called as amortization schedule, which means that as you pay every month, whatever the $2,147, you got to understand that a large part of that payment goes for interest only, and a small part of that goes for the actual payment. So a lot of people, and this is really sad because people don't understand, is that they buy a house, they pay for 5 years, and they think that they've paid a lot to the house, but they've paid a very little amount on the actual loan amount. They've paid a lot of interest. Now they go and buy another house, and then they sell the existing house, and then they try to close this loan and get another loan. Guess what? You're losing a lot of money. So you got to calculate what you're trying to do. So that's why this amortization schedule is very important. And I'm going to give you a simple way to do that amortization schedule. There are many complex ways, including programming, which we will introduce in time. So in order for the amortization schedule, since we are in January 2024, I'm just going to say that every first of every month, you're going to pay off that amount. Okay, just a guess. So I'm just going to put the date as well, you got to put month first, so I'm going to put 2/1/2024. Okay. Let me do this. Let me insert another row. So the way you do that is you right click on that row and say insert. Okay. Then you put date when you're paying, and I'm just going to put month just to keep track of your number of months, and I am going to put a loan amount. I'm going to show you the interest paid. And then I'm going to show you the principal paid. So how much of the principal are you paying off that loan amount? How much interest are you paying off the loan amount? And the amount remaining. The amount remaining is very useful in cases where, let's say that you want to sell this house. How much loan you need to pay back, and are you gaining anything by selling the house? You can calculate all of those things, okay, with this mortgage schedule. Okay, so I'm also going to put the next date, and I'll tell you why I'm putting that. 24. Okay, I got it. Made a mistake here. 2024. Okay, and I'm going to put month 2. Okay, now the reason I'm doing this is, and of course I'll make the heading bold and maybe make sure that it's all aligned. Okay, everything should be very well aligned. Okay, so what I can do is that in Excel, I can highlight these two rows, and if you see that that thick cross becomes a thin cross when I come to this corner. If I do that and if I drag for I'm going to drag this for 360 months. Okay, if I do that, what really happens is it just also automatically fills the numbers up for you. Okay, Excel does this automatically, and this is very useful for you. And here you can see that it goes after every month of that year, then switches over to this year. And you know that if you get a loan today, your last payment will be on 2054, 30 years, right? So it's a very long commitment. So when you're buying something like a house or something, you got to make sure that you can commit to that number of years. Okay, and of course, to start with the loan amount, I'm going to put equals that. Okay, and this loan amount is never going to change. So therefore, when you have fields that it's never going to change, the way you put the address is you put a dollar after the address. Okay, to just freeze. Let me put it here. I put a dollar so that, see, the address cannot change, right? Putting a dollar before C and dollar before 2. That will make the address cannot change. So if I copy this anywhere else, that value will be the same. Okay. Now you need to calculate what interest are you paying for that amount, because that's the interest you're going to pay. Okay. So your interest you're paying is basically, for that amount you're paying a monthly rate. Okay. So that's equals this value multiplied by that monthly rate. Okay, and the monthly rate is a constant in this case, so I am just going to put a dollar and a dollar before, okay, to freeze the rate. Okay, so you are paying, and I'll make this less number of decimal, like 2 decimal places, just to. So you're paying off. So of the payment you're paying, what this means is, of the payment you're paying that much interest for that particular payment. Okay. So that means how much are you paying against the principal? Basically that monthly amount, and again the monthly amount is never going to change, so I'm going to put a dollar and dollar. Okay, minus whatever you paid for interest. Okay, so what this means is, in the very first payment you're paying $1,600 on just the interest alone, and only $480 you're paying against the principal. So that means your amount remaining on the first month is actually $400,000 minus this principal. You get it? Okay, this is what is very important. Okay, so initially you're paying very little on the principal, so your loan amount has hardly decreased, but you're paying $1,600 as interest. Okay. Now, of course, in the second month, your amount remaining is that, correct? So I'm just going to put that in. And then these other fields, like this one, and this one, I can just simply copy because the formula is the same, right? Now, hold on a minute. It used the F dollar. Okay, so I probably, so this one I think, let me calculate the interest again, because here it's using the fixed amount, the loan amount, right? No, the interest rate is okay. I think I can copy it. Okay, let me copy it. Let me copy these 3 lines. So, as you can see, there's a small difference in the interest has decreased a little bit, okay, and your principal has increased a little bit up, and the amount remaining has decreased a little bit, right? Now, after you do this, this is what is fun. You can take that and you can just go down to 360 months with a plus sign. It automatically fills this schedule up. Okay, that's the great thing about this Excel. Okay, so you can see that the amount keeps decreasing every month, right? And then if you go to the end, in the last payment, your amount has ended with 0. Obviously, you paid off the loan. But if you see the last part of your loan payment, the more the amount that you're paying is a lot more than the interest you're paying. Got it? So you're paying a lot more than the interest you're paying. Now watch this. This is what is important. Okay. If you do the totals, well, I got to type L there. I'm going to make it a little bold. See, you can calculate the total by just summing this up, right? And you can use a function and you can use the sum, okay? And it is saying that the address for the sum is D9 to D368. I want to check. D368. That one looks good. So I'm just saying okay. Hold on a minute. I don't know why this got calculated. So for this loan, if you take this total for 30 years, over time you're paying $373,000 for just interest. Okay, so the bank is not giving you anything for charity. They are actually charging you $373,000 over 30 years for you to get your house. Okay, now if I total this out, this should come to 400,000. I'm going to use the same method. I do the sum. And so that comes to 400,000. Okay. So that's the total loan amount, right? So now, if you really see how much you really paid over 30 years, is basically that amount plus the interest, right? So here's the deal. What I want to show you is that the total amount you paid for your house is $773,000. You didn't pay for $400,000 for the house. You're actually paying $773 for the house. But you got something of value, which is 400,000 30 years back. Now, generally, since the house value appreciates over time, if you bought the right house and if you're wise enough, then maybe your house, today may cost, I don't know, 900,000. That means you made a profit, right? But let's say that the housing market is already at the peak and you were in a hurry and you bought a house for 400,000. But then afterwards the value of the house decreased for 30 years. You're not even making any money, but you're paid $373,000 extra to buy the house. Okay, these are all simple personal financial concepts, but I just want to break it down to you in Excel. How to do this in Excel is what I showed you right now. Okay. And what is nice about this is, of course, you're changing the number of years is a little hard here because your breakdown is for 30 years. That's what we've broken this down to. Now, there are ways in which even that can be dynamic, right? But with this all set, you can change the interest rate. For example, if I change the interest rate to 3%, now you see, obviously your monthly payment has decreased drastically, but also you are paying much less amount of interest. You're paying only $200,000 of interest. And you're, instead of paying around $800,000 on the whole, you're paying only $600,000. So you actually save $200,000. Okay. The other thing, so you can negotiate with the bank, with the mortgage company, what that interest rate is. That will help. And of course, you can negotiate with the owner of the house the price of the house. Okay. Because if I make it $375,000, then of course your monthly payment has decreased drastically from 2,400 something. It's become 1,500. And then the other thing is that the total number of interest you're paying is $194,000. Now, if you're smart, if you can negotiate and then say that, hey, I don't want to pay for 30 long years. I want to pay only for 15 years, right? If you change this to 15, then obviously your number of months, so if you go to the end, it's going to be a lot negative, right? So we don't have to do the negative spots. Let me see, it's still negative. Okay, so this is 15 months. That's basically you are doing 180 months, right? Now, right here, if you calculate, and I'm going to calculate the, let me take the rest of the stuff off. And let me delete them. And so you see that if you took a 15-year loan, the interest you're paying is only $91,000. And the total amount you're paying is $375,000, right? Now I'll give an example of how I did it, okay? Now, even though I could have, based on my credit and everything, I could have got a $400,000 house. I actually paid for my house here in San Antonio, Texas, $256,000. Okay. And I took a 15-year mortgage, and my interest was, since we had very good interest rates at that time, it was 2%. Okay. Now look at my monthly payment. I'm still paying $1,600 something, but a lot of that amount is going over the principal. I'm only paying, let me see, I'm only paying $40,000 as mortgage, right? And I'm almost done. This is the last year I'm paying for it, actually, in my case. And the total amount I paid for the house is around $300,000. Now, currently my house in San Antonio market is around $550,000. So I gained $250,000 because I was patient. I just got a good house, and then I waited for 15 years to pay it off. Now when I sell my house and then go and buy another house, right? I made enough money in this house, and I can buy a house as much larger and much better, and I don't have to pay for another loan. So I described all my personal story to make sure that you understand that yes, it's okay to buy your house on loan, because nobody has $250,000 in the very beginning of their jobs or whatever. But if you take, and another important thing is the interest rate should be a fixed interest rate. So for example, in 2008 or whenever 2007, when I took the loan, interest rate is $2. Today the interest rate is $4.5. But since I took a fixed interest loan, that percentage never changes. Now life is very simple. All I need to do is budget $1,647 a month for my monthly mortgage payment, and that's pretty much it. In 15 years, I own a house whose value is more than, very important, more than both the original value of the house plus the interest you paid for the house. So if people calculate this way, I feel like a lot of debt, at least housing market, will be, a lot of people will be debt free. And in with $256,000, I actually bought a nice house. It's 4 bedrooms. Okay, it's a 2,500 square foot house. It's a large house, right? And I'm still facing challenges, maintaining this house. So I got a very big house for this, right? It's not like you're getting a small house. Now, of course, in places like, this is San Antonio, Texas, of course, you go to a place like New York or California, the houses cost you a lot more. But, and there the complication is you got to buy the house at a time when the interest rate is low and the housing market is the buyer's market. That means it's more advantageous for the buyers to buy the house. Right? 2007, 2008, when the mortgage prices are going down, was the best time to buy a house, right? Now, of course, that varies because, your situation may be different. But I just want to give you this in the first video just to show you how financial calculations can be done in Excel. Now, see, the one thing that I did here is that when I did this mortgage schedule, I started with 30 years. Then I cut off all my copying and reduced it to 15 years. And for that, I need to do some ugly cutting off the thing. Now, there's an automatic way to do this in Excel, but I want to make this interesting. I want to make this in a way that I can actually write a program called Visual Basic for Applications and calculate all of these things using Visual Basic for Applications for any type of loan, right? Can I do it? And definitely you can do it. And how you need to do that is what I want to teach this class, right? My aim was not just to give you some financial information, just to calculate this, but also give you some ideas about programming, okay? Now, in this class, I just want to finish with something interesting. I just want to show you how you enable programming in Excel. And for that, I'm going to do one thing that is important, because the way your Excel will look like is, I'm going to go back to that and I'm going to set my Excel that way. And then I'll explain what I'm trying to do. Okay. Now your Excel will look like this. This is what your Excel should look like, unless otherwise you got into programming. Okay. Because programming inside Excel, it's possible that somebody can load some malicious programs to load like a virus into your Excel program, right? you can actually write a program to delete everything, all the workbooks. You can, right? And since Excel is so powerful, you can even delete other programs in through an Excel macro, okay, or Excel program. So that's why they don't enable it automatically, but you can easily enable it by going to options and clicking on customize ribbon. Basically, I did that before I disabled it. So I can click on developer, and that gives me the developer mode or the developer tab in Excel. So when I click on the developer tab, you get some additional stuff here. Okay. So in this lesson, I want you to do that first. First do that. Okay. I know that we did a lot of loan calculation stuff. Please try that, but also enable your developer mode. And then I want to show you one small thing to just give you a feeling of what Excel is, right? Let's say that I want to print something here in this in the row H, right? Let's say I want to print hello world. Okay. Okay. And I want to maybe make it bold, underline, and change some colors, and maybe increase the font. Okay, so I want to do this in my program, and this is some repeated task I'm keeping on doing it. Okay, now I'm going to undo all these things, but it's a repeated task I want to do in every new Excel sheet that I open. So since it's a repeated task, I can program it, okay? Or I can do something in Excel's term called as record a macro. That means whatever I did, even this mortgage stuff, I could have recorded it so that I can run it repeatedly, okay? Now there are some implications for that, but right now I just want to show how to record your program. So basically whatever you do, Excel watches it, converts that into a computer program which you can run repeatedly. That's what I want to demonstrate. Now how you do that is, so last time we just did something, said hello world, and we undid everything, okay? So this time I want to make it as a programming thing. So to do that as a programming thing, you click on this record macro. Record macro asks you for a macro name, because since it's repeatedly running, you need to know the name to run it, right? So I'm just going to give a name called say underscore hello. Now a little bit, we'll cover this a little bit more, but macro names will have to start with alphabetic character, and it cannot have spaces. It can have numbers and underscore, but I'm just not using numbers, but I'm just going to put say and an underscore hello because it cannot have spaces. Now to run the macro, either you can go to the macro here in macros, this icon, and then run the macro by name, or you can also just type a keyboard shortcut and it can run it. Now you got to make sure that the shortcut that you choose doesn't override your standard shortcuts. For example, you press Ctrl C to copy, right? You don't want that to run this macro. So you could probably put like a Shift H for hello, and I added a shift. So you press Ctrl Shift and H to run this macro, okay? The next thing that it asks is, do you want to run this macro only for this workbook? Other option is you want to do it like a personal macro workbook. When you put this macro only in this workbook, when you save this workbook, send it to anybody, it's portable. That means that whatever programs you wrote, whatever macros you wrote in this workbook will run for somebody who has got your workbook through email, right? So sometimes you want to do that. Sometimes you want to build a bunch of macros that you can put it in your computer, and whenever you want you can do some repeated tasks. In that case, you do a personal macro workbook. For our current situation, I'm just going to use this workbook and say OK. As soon as you do that, it's going to start recording, and whenever I click on stop recording, it's going to stop. So after I did start recording, I'm going to press that cell. I'm going to type hello world. Okay. And I'm adjusting the size. Then I'm going to make it bold and underline. Maybe add a border, thick border. Change the background, change the font color, increase the size, and realign it. Okay. So I did all of those things, and I'm going to say stop recording. Okay. So what really happened? What really happened is your macro got created here, say hello, and it actually recorded a program for you. Okay, if I click on edit, I can see a big nice computer program here. Okay, and I can see that it's selecting a cell, it's putting the text hello world, it's doing an auto fit. There is some border changes that we are doing. There is some font changes we are doing, color changes we are doing. All of these things is actually coded in Visual Basic for application so that you can run this macro. Now what I want to do is I can modify this program. So I'm going to say hello world from me. I'm modifying this program, right? And I am going to now close this. Okay, and I'm going to create a new sheet using this plus symbol. I can click on it, it will create a brand new sheet. Now I'm going to go to macros, select the say hello macro, and click on run. You see, it ran that thing that I recorded. Not only it ran, but it included the modifications I made to the program. So the best way to learn Visual Basic for application is many times record a little bit and then go back and change the code a little bit. So you'll learn a lot using that. Okay, how great is that? Okay, so Microsoft Office, I'm telling you that it's really great. You have other spreadsheet programs, but they don't have this kind of facility, right? Macro facility. So that's good. Now what I want to do is I want to create another sheet, and this time I'm not even going to click on macro and then select it and run it. I can press Control Shift H. So when I pressed Control Shift H, the macro ran automatically and it did that repeated task. Now just imagine that if you wrote all these little macros, if you recorded it, not even coded, recorded all these things, and you assign different shortcuts to it, you can actually be very productive in Excel doing that. Okay, so that's the next step which I showed you, how to enable the developer mode and how to record a macro. Okay, now today we learned how to build a mortgage schedule in the first sheet. Then we also learned how to enable the developer mode, and then we learned how to record a macro and run a macro. Okay, so I think this is big enough and good enough for today. The next class, what we will do is we will get into programming, and I actually want to, so understand this, Visual Basic for application is not like a toy programs we are going to write. We're going to write real programs. Okay, we're going to learn concepts of programming, and that to object-oriented programming using just Excel. And the reason for that is Excel is a very good entry point for people to learn programming. I'm telling you, okay, to understand the concepts. So we are going to get into things like serious things like algorithms and stuff like that, but in its due time. But for right now, just play around, Try to do whatever I have in this video. Try to do it, change your interest rates and stuff, play around with it, play around with recording macros and running some programs. You may fail, you may succeed, just do it, and then you do have this video. And if you have any questions on this video, please enter those in the comments and I will try to answer them. Thank you very much and see you in the next class.